To the Inner Solutions live stream. We're about to go live on Facebook as well. So let's do that in a second. My name is Jim Cipollini. I am a mental health coach at Inner Solutions, the page that you are on. If you are familiar with me, hey, how's it going? We're here today to talk about mental health, all things mental health, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, symptoms that you have. You know, the purpose of this is to really have a wonderful community, a place where we can share the knowledge that we got from guys who struggled ourselves and had to learn all the techniques. So we are the guys with the biggest tool belt to deal with panic attacks, anxiety. So we're about to go live on Facebook. Let's do that. And all right, welcome a little late to the party, Facebook family. If you're here, this is exciting. My name is Jim Cipollini or Cipollini, either way is correct, believe it or not. And I am a mental health coach here at Inner Solutions. YouTubers, sorry you had to hear that twice, but that's okay. So we're here today to, really connect and to share what's going on with everybody. So feel free to pop those check-ins, pop those questions, pop those thoughts, anything that feels unresolved, pop in stories, anything mental health related or anxiety related. We want to hear from you and we want to know what's going on with you. I'm going to take a minute here and post these in the proper outlets. So if you want to get started, there's a chat right there. There's also a link down below to schedule a free call on Facebook, as well as a link to a copy of our book, The Panic Response Plan. That's a book that we wrote. It's an ebook and an audiobook, so you can read it as a PDF file on your computer, or you can listen to the audiobook. And the audiobook is cool because it has some bonus material in it. I'm reading it, dictating it, as well as giving some insights, going more in depth about the techniques to deal with a panic attack, and also a little bit about my personal experience and some stories from clients over the years. Yeah. So we're just wrapping up the old posting here, and then we'll hop on YouTube. Guys, and if you're not familiar with our YouTube page, there's a ton of great content related to anxiety, panic attacks, and specialized stuff, health anxiety, videos on money anxiety, videos on holiday anxiety, videos on depersonalization, derealization, lots of stuff up there that you could find valuable, you could find useful. So check out that YouTube page, and I can, actually I'm going to post the link right now into the chat on Facebook if you don't have it already. What's up? What's up? What's up? So Sophia, that book is in the description of this video right here. So there's like the title that says Live Anxiety and Mental Health Q&A, and then during the live stream you'll learn. Hit the See More button and scroll down, and it will bring you to the link. There's two links down there. And on YouTube, in that live chat, I'm going to post, hey everyone. So if you want to ask those questions, go for it. Go for it immediately. So I'm going to change this description. Live anxiety and mental health Q&A. And guys, I don't mean to brag or make this about me, but my birthday is in 2 days. And what a gift it would be for me to see you guys feeling great and being active in that chat. Today is 2/23/21. I'll be turning 17 years old. Can you believe that? Just kidding. Schedule a free coaching call. And so in this YouTube link, those of you watching on YouTube, you can schedule that free coaching call that we talk about all the time. Yeah, absolutely. So let's see what's going on in Facebook. Holly says, hi. Hey, Holly, how are you? Carmen, how are you? Latanya, how are you? Tara, Sophia, Dawn, what's up? What's going on? Latanya asks, why is it every time you feel all right, then out of the blue you start feeling anxious? Well, there's a kind of smarmy answer, and then there's a little bit more of a descriptive answer. So Latanya, you wouldn't notice that you started feeling anxious unless you were feeling okay. But there's a little bit more to that. So a lot of people report that typically when their anxiety symptoms are the worst is when they're either getting ready to go into something they feel anxious about, or they're coming out of a stressful environment to a place of rest. You see this a lot with soldiers, particularly in a war zone. So think of places that you're highly anxious as kind of like that war zone. And we're not using a comparison because obviously there is no comparison of the risk factor. But for our metaphorical purposes, let's use it. When you're in a state of stress, when you're in a state of anxiety, when you're in a place where your fight or flight is on consistently, your body is in survival mode. And so that means it's got that adrenaline running through it. It's got the glucose running through it from that fight or flight mechanism being triggered, right? So remember that your brain has that threat detection system that triggers that fight or flight mechanism. So in that quote unquote war zone, whether it's out at the grocery store, whether it's driving, whether it's at work, typically you're in survival mode, meaning your nervous system is incredibly stimulated. And when you get out of that zone is typically when panic attacks happen, or you'll feel a lot more of the symptoms. So a lot of people report when they lay down in bed, that's when they start having heart palpitations. When they are on their way home, they'll start having the heart palpitations. And it's kind of useful. It's not quite accurate, but it's useful to think of it as like when your body is in that fight or flight, in that kind of war zone, it's storing stress. And so it wants to detox that stress. And so a lot of times it takes a second for your overstimulated nervous system to cool down. And that's when you feel those, a lot of those symptoms. So it's actually really normal to have a panic attack when you're sitting on the couch relaxing after a long day of holding it together and being on edge. Sophia says, awesome, you got the book. Heck yeah. Ooh, lots of happy birthdays. Thank you, Sophia, Dawn, and Diana. Thank you guys so much. Hey, Cindy, how are you? What's up, Jana? Welcome. Hello, Pamela. How are you? Good to see you. Diana says, hello, just listening to you here is very comforting. Thank you. Sure. Guys, feel free to pop those questions into the chat. And it doesn't have to be questions. It could be something you're struggling with, something that's going on with you, tips that you may need, anything. It's great. Let's check in with our YouTube family. This is interesting. So bizarre. YouTube just crashed. It's perfect. Are we still live on YouTube? We're definitely, yeah. So, yeah, pop those questions in there. Yesterday at our class, we went over avoidance and exposure therapy, and it really resonated with a lot of the class members. I think mainly because, and this is what typically the hardest part about struggling with like panic attacks is, a lot of people have a panic attack and then become so scared of having another one, or what's going to happen if I have one when I'm driving, or I can't be alone, because if I am, I can't sign into YouTube. If I am, or if I do, if I do have a panic attack, or if I am alone, I won't be able to ask for help, or I won't be okay, or I won't be able to like call the ambulance if I need the ambulance. And so when we talked about avoidance, it really resonated with most of the people there. And one of the questions I asked them, and it was really great to get it on paper, is what have you been avoiding because of your anxiety or panic attacks? So I want to ask you guys the same question. And if you feel brave enough and you want to share, go ahead and throw it into the chat. Okay. I'm doing this wrong, yeah. So yeah, just feel free, if you feel brave enough, throw it into the chat. What do you, what does your panic attacks cause you to avoid? And that's it's a heavy question. Is it driving? Is it going out in public? Is it the fear of being alone? Is it, we had somebody talk about, he used to love to go hiking and can't go hiking or backpacking by himself anymore because he's so filled with anxiety about being alone. And so then what we did after we identified the things that we were avoiding, we came up with an exposure experiment, which had some really key elements. One was to take the fear. So we take something like the fear of driving, and we break it down into what we call the anxiety stimulus hierarchy. So we start on like a scale of 100, and we start with something that was related to driving that maybe is a 10 out of 100. So maybe it would be just getting into the car and starting it. And maybe there's a fear there because it triggers a little bit of anxiety. It doesn't trigger a panic attack, but it triggers a little bit of anxiety. So we design these experiments. Maybe the next step is just pulling out of the driveway and back into the driveway. Maybe the next step is around the block. And so you develop this list of ascending anxieties related to driving. Or maybe the top one is driving alone over an hour away from home, but you have 6 or 7 steps in between there. And you use the tools of coping and relaxation and cognitive reframing and CBT to be able to deal with these, to recondition your body's response. And that's a beautiful way to gain back what you've lost or what you've been avoiding. And guys, don't be shy about posting in the chat. This is a beautiful, totally non-judgmental, totally wonderful community here. Nothing to be shy. Nothing to be shy or worried about. Cindy says, I'm dealing with paranoid feelings since my therapist broke confidentiality that I mentioned last week here. I met with my therapist today to discuss what happened. He seemed to change the direction of the talk. Cindy, after hearing your story, so guys, long story short of what happened with Cindy was that, and this is something she shared on the live stream, so I'm not breaking any confidentiality or anything. Her therapist, who she was supposed to meet with, I believe canceled their appointment to talk to a lawyer and share some information about Cindy to the lawyer, breaking confidentiality ultimately. And ultimately, Cindy's left with this feeling of mistrust and this feeling of betrayal. Cindy, what I would say is this situation is certainly, I would say, unethical at best as far as the actions of your therapist. What I would say about you is that you now have a place to explore, because it sounds like it's actually hitting a really, really deep raw spot within you, if that makes sense. Sort of some kind of lack of trust, some kind of sweet spot for betrayal. And it's not a judgment. It's something to try to squeeze something positive out of this situation, because it is kind of a crappy situation. And I would look and do a hard look at yourself and do some journaling and some meditating on, was I already, am I already a bit mistrusting of people? And look at your history. Have you been betrayed a lot before? Have you been let down a lot before? And don't just answer those in a kind of vague sense of yes, I've been let down. Really think about it. Have the people that you've trusted let you down and betrayed you before? And is this kind of reigniting an already present trigger that's within you and just triggering that and activating that hurt that's already there? I know that if my therapist were to do something like that, it wouldn't ring that loudly for me. It wouldn't be something that I feel like would leave a big emotional receipt on me. I would have a conversation with him about it. If I didn't trust him anymore, I would fire him. But as far as the resonance that it feels like it's having with you, Cindy, those paranoid feelings, it's been a few weeks that you've been talking about it, which is totally fine. But it seems like it's activating a hurt that's already there, or maybe a belief that's already there. And those common beliefs can be, you can't trust anybody. And maybe you trusted your therapist. I mean, it's a really, really intimate and vulnerable relationship. And so, number one, I'm sorry that this happened to you because that's tough. And I know that you come here each week and you're working hard on feeling better. But also, it's illuminating and it's bringing something out of your subconscious. And so, let's use it. Cindy says, happy birthday. Thank you, Cindy. Valerie says, I've had 2 this year and my triggers are all stress overload related. Your triggers, Valerie, give me a little more information. Your triggers, the triggers to your panic attacks are stress overload? Interesting. Tell us a little more, Valerie. What are the things that are stressing you out, if you're willing to share? Like, what is the stress overload? Is it job, work, kids, family, husband? Let us know. And why are you, what can you do to maybe unload some of the stress, unload some of the burden that you're carrying? Is it emotional burden? Is it day-to-day burden? Don says, I can't drive too far, get stressed out. Don, talk a little bit more about can't drive too far. And when did that start? Did that start when you were having panic attacks? Cindy says, it happens when I drive, I avoid the location it happened at. If happens when I drive, I avoid the location it happened at. I'm not sure what you mean. It sounds like what you're trying to say is you avoid a location where you've had a panic attack before because it's going to trigger a panic attack. So Cindy, if you were to develop some kind of exposure experiment, you could see what you could do with that place to start to gain the coping skills necessary to recondition your body's response so that you're not stuck just avoiding this place. And then what happens if it happens in another place and another place and then just avoiding everything? Because the beautiful thing about dealing with anxiety is not that the world gets less dangerous, it's that you get more able to deal with it. You get the tools. You redevelop whatever's formed, whether it's trauma from the fear of having a panic attack, the overwhelm from a situation, or just these kind of internal conflicts that you have, which, to those of you who I've talked to, you know what I mean. Sophia says, I've been going to a therapist every week, and I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere with her. I live at home with my father-in-law and my husband, and I feel that my anxiety comes on when my father-in-law takes up all of my husband's time. But I don't feel the therapist is really helping me because I repeat the same thing week after week, and she doesn't give me any tools to help me feel better. My anxiety comes on when my father-in-law takes up all of my husband's time, but I don't feel the therapist is really helping me. So, Sophia, what is your therapist saying? Have you had conversations with the husband? Is your husband willing to, do you feel heard? Do you feel seen? Do you feel valued? And these are not just memes of like, sweetie, you deserve to be seen and heard and valued. No, actually, this is an innate need in us, especially in intimate relationships. Have you sat down with your husband, had a conversation about, hey, I'm noticing that I'm feeling that your father is kind of taking up all your time, and I'm wondering if we can shift that into scheduling more time for us. Now, ladies, men cannot read your minds, nor can you read ours. But what you want to do is get something on paper, a structure, something, where it's like, it's not just an intangible, I want to spend more time together. It's like suggest things, come up with a time. But first and most importantly, have you and can you have that conversation with him? Sophia, please fill me in with those questions. I'd love to know more. Deborah says, I've been struggling with anxiety attacks the past few weeks, and I think it could be feelings of inadequacy. Yeah, so we know the 2 biggest causes of panic attacks are unprocessed emotion and an overstimulated nervous system, which, by the way, when you have unprocessed emotion, typically that means you have a bit of an overstimulated nervous system, which typically causes you to shut down and not be able to process your real-time emotion, which causes you to overstimulate your nervous system even more and becomes a really, really intense cycle. So, Deborah, heart goes out to you. I think we can all agree. Talk a little bit more about the feelings of inadequacy. In what ways do you feel inadequate? In what ways do this part of you that feels inadequate manifest? What does it say to you? If you feel comfortable sharing, would love to hear more. Usually, parts of us that are kind of inner critics, or parts of us that feel inadequate. There's a few different dynamics that can go on there, but feelings of inadequacy or inner criticism typically is a protective part. So think of it this way. usually inner critics are formed because they're trying to protect you from feeling something that you don't want to feel again, whether it's a rejection, a failure, a criticism from an external criticism. And you can see that. So let's say you form this inner critic because you were in school one day and a boy in front of the whole class made fun of your dress or made fun of your hair or something, and it hit you hard. And then you became really vigilant about, my hair always has to be perfect. I don't want to feel that again. And that's not a conscious thought. What it sounds like is, my hair's got to be perfect, whatever. It can turn into some kind of, neuroticism or neuroses about your hair, about something to do with it. So then you develop this part, and over the years it becomes the hair, and then maybe it's more, well, I don't want to feel that pain again. What about my clothes? Then it becomes more, what about my makeup? What about my my glasses? What about my weight? What about and it can turn into this inner criticism. And also, a feeling of inadequacy can stem from feeling stuck, like I keep failing, or I can't do something, so I'm just inadequate. I'm not enough. So Deborah would love to know more about that. Janice says, I'm uncomfortable all day because I'm alone and then worn out at night. Sounds like you're struggling with high anxiety, Jana. Yeah, being alone all day and being nervous and anxious, and then just your system being absolutely exhausted. Does that make sense? Tara answering the question about what are you avoiding? Stress, driving, and being alone. Is that about what are you avoiding, Tara? Right, Woody? Woody's asleep. Cindy says, I freak out if I drive more than an hour away from home. I start to panic. Yeah, I mean, this is a really common anxiety, especially to do with panic attacks. Kind of the further you get away from your comfort zone, the more anxious that your body and your system will be. And that's because, your comfort zone is your safe zone. And as you, number one, well, let's break this down. Your comfort zone ultimately becomes a safe place, right? So home is the comfort zone. I know where my phone is. I know where my soothing technique tools are. I know where everything is. It's a controlled environment. It's safe. What happens is, as you avoid more and more, you reinforce that avoiding thought pattern in your mind. And so things become more scary. And it's not something you have to worry about because it's something that's completely reversible. It's something you can completely work through. But we don't want to add pressure. But the truth is that you have to honor how you feel. And sometimes you need to be in that safe zone if you're not getting the right support, or if it completely overwhelms your system. And that's one of the risks of exposure therapy, is a lot of counselors don't use it because it can intensify or exacerbate symptoms if you push yourself too far. I find that as long as you're prepared with knowing that each time you do some kind of exposure therapy, whether it's push yourself to drive, push yourself to go somewhere you're uncomfortable with, as long as you're mentally prepared to know, hey, this may not go perfectly, and if it doesn't work out, or if I have to leave early, I'm not going to shame myself, I'm not going to beat myself up, then you're good to go. You're good to go. Shantae says, hello, everyone. Hey, Shantae, how are you? And that is the right way to say your name. Yes. Cindy says, yes, I have. It took years to build trust up with my therapist. Years to build? Yeah, so Cindy, if you innately have a very strong part that's non-trusting and you've been betrayed, all that's happening, and this is why curiosity is so important when you look at your system, the parts of you, all that's happening, and it hurts, is you're hitting a raw spot. He's hitting a raw spot with his action that was already there. So Cindy, I would encourage you 100% to go through the motions with him. Go through the motions of reconciliation. Share with him. I mean, if he's a therapist worth any of his weight, he will sit and listen to you when you say, without blame, but you say, I realize that hit a spot in me that's very, very raw and sensitive, and I really want to work it out. I need your help. And use your intuition. But Cindy, we got to know there is a part in you, it sounds like, that is very, very non-trusting. And so recalibrate and move forward with that knowledge and get familiar with that part. Try to unblend, try to get curious and loving towards it. Connect with it, connect with yourself. Carmen says, happy birthday. Thank you, Carmen. Shantae says, happy birthday, Jim. Thank you, Shantae. You guys are so sweet. Cindy says, panic attacks. Yep. Just what you said about my drive avoiding location. Gotcha. Dawn says, most anxiety started with the pandemic. Yeah. What we found is the pandemic took manageable anxiety for a lot of people and pushed it into that higher echelon, that much more intense region. So if you were at a, 5, 6, 7 on a scale of 10, now you're at a 8, 9, 10. So the pandemic, what we suggest with dealing with pandemic anxiety is making sure that you're not just consistently triggering your anxiety. So maybe turning off the news, doing those good health behaviors to destimulate your nervous system. And as far as actually catching coronavirus, is using some cognitive behavioral therapy to do some thought replacement. Most of the time it's like a fear of just going to the store. And you got to know, if you go to the store and you have your mask on and you're wiping things down and you're following the guidelines, it's so remote that number one, you'd catch coronavirus. Number two, it would be an intense and serious case. Number three, it would be something that would push you into the hospital. I mean, the odds of all that happening are so unlikely if you take the precautions. They're almost mathematically impossible. So you have to notice the difference between the magnification, which is a cognitive distortion, meaning thoughts that are just not true, caused by emotions inside of you, and the differentiation between the magnification and the reality. And they're so massive and different. Yes, you can still feel the emotion, but you have to stand and be with it and be present with it and do the reminding over and over and over again sometimes to really get through to that part of you that's stuck in the catastrophization, in the magnification, to calm it and soothe it. Otherwise, you're just being overwhelmed by anxiety. And I would further recommend that you do some parts work, IFS. Get familiar with it. Practice letting that self-energy come through so you can manage all these parts in your inner family. And if you guys have questions about that, message us on Facebook. I think any of you we've talked about IFS or we've done some parts work on the phone. Pamela says, how can I face my anxiety and fears about starting my new job? Haven't been taught to feel like I'm worthy and can handle this and do great at it. Anxiety over failing ramps up by anxiety. Anxiety over failing ramps up by anxiety. Pamela, one of the lessons we have coming up in our class soon is trusting your future self. And there's a lot of different techniques to this. So one of them that can be, it's very simple, is just write down all the things you've done that maybe you were anxious about before and that went well. And I guarantee there's 800,000 of them. If you're a parent, all the bazillion things that went well with your kids, and I'm sure you were anxious about being a parent. If you've worked jobs before, if you've done presentations, if you had to do some physical feat before, if you had to handle a crisis situation, handle a family member dying, list all the things that you were anxious for or things that most people would be anxious for, and just write out the positive result that came from them. We're cultivating trust in the future self by just one simple technique. Now, there's a lot more to this, but that's where I would begin. Deep down, Pamela, you're going to kick its ass. Excuse my language. But you're going to be just fine. There's just kind of one rogue part of you. And I would also talk to that really anxious part of you and be compassionate. Hey, I see you. I feel you. I know you're right here. I know you're scared. It's totally going to be okay. It really, really, really is going to be okay. So address it instead of trying to shove it down and get it to shut up. Address it and help it. Sophia to City says, I totally relate to the therapist part. Nice. Shantae says, well, I got off work today and I had a horrible panic attack on the way home where my whole body was shaking and my heart rate went sky high. I was so scared to drive home, but I did it. It took me a minute, but I did it. And I didn't call 911 or go to the hospital. I wanted to, but I didn't. But now scared to drive. So what can I do? Well, first of all, good work. Good work just getting through it. If anything, I would say that was kind of the worst case scenario and you got through it, right? You're shaking, you're having a panic attack. I would say that there's a handful of things that you can do. Number one, if you have any sort of PRN medication, any medication you take as needed, put one in the car. Worst case scenario, I can take a Xanax. I can do that. Have your kind of worst case scenarios exit strategy ready. Worst case scenario, I can pull over. Worst case scenario, I can call my mom. I can call my friend. I can call somebody to ground me. Worst case scenario is I have my phone so I can call 911 if I have to. Just because you're scared to drive, first of all, doesn't mean those thoughts are rational and you have to believe them. Also doesn't mean you have to stop driving. Again, the cure to anxiety is trust. Trust that everything's going to be okay. You can do all you want to mitigate the risk, but there is no existence without some kind of risk. And the sooner you kind of get used to addressing the anxiety, soothing it, listening to it, not listening to it as in letting it overwhelm you, but listening to it while setting a boundary, meaning like, I need you not to overwhelm me. I'm right here. I see you. I need you not to overwhelm me. And then not just giving in, staying with it. I see you, but I need you not to overwhelm me. The sooner you can soothe it and calm it down and say, hey, we're going to drive. It's going to be okay. We kind of just had the nightmarish situation and we totally got through it. And then you have that faith in your future self. Yeah. So all together, just to review, have some kind of worst case scenario plan. If I really feel like it's too strong, I can pull over, I can call somebody. I have my phone, I can call 911 if I really have to. Again, 911's not going to do anything for you if you're struggling from anxiety, but you can if it makes you feel better. And know that each time you do it, you're getting a little bit stronger, a little bit more brave, and a little bit more confident. Shantae, I really want to see you read that Panic Response Plan book. It's in the description at the bottom. If you scroll down below in the bottom of the description of this video on Facebook, I really want to see you read that book because it's going to give you so many strategies to deal with the panic attacks. I'm doing some reframing, knowing to do the breathing, writing down what's happening so it becomes formulaic, because the driving is not the issue. The feeling confident that you can deal with the panic attack, I feel like, is really more of a deeper source that's going to help with that. Get confident. Panic attacks don't kill you. Panic attacks don't make you lose control. Panic attacks don't make you go crazy. Janice says, yes. I don't remember what you said yes about, but yeah. Sophia says, sorry, I had to leave for a few minutes. Sophia, I forgive you. No problem. No problem. Don't feel valued, and I've had plenty of conversations with him. So, yeah, Sophia, so you may have to look at some hard truths that you don't want to look at, which may be a source of your anxiety. And you first, you want to really explore how realistic are your expectations. Are you in a level of codependency that is... Are you in a level of codependency with your husband where you're relying on him for too much? And that's a tough question. Are you extraordinarily needy? That being said, you also have to honor how you are. So your choice is, do you want to explore yourself? Do you want to make yourself a little more emotionally independent, which is something you can do, definitely with support and on your own? And that, parts work, the IFS stuff is amazing for that. Allowing these kind of parts of you who need emotional support, who need more to attach to you and become more self-reliant. Or do you realize I'm unsatisfied with my relationship? And part of your anxiety, Sophia, maybe you haven't been looking at the reality of the situation for a while. And that can be scary because then it can turn into, what do I do? What am I going to leave him? What do I do? Do I break up with him? Do I separate? Do I move out? What do I do? Do I talk to his father-in-law? Sit down with the information, Sophia. If you need to, sit down with a coach, counselor, trusted friend who really, truly has your best interest in mind, and brainstorm. Get all the information out there, but get the real information out there. Get it out there. Think of it. Maybe it's a possibility. I don't feel valued, and that doesn't work for me in a relationship. It wouldn't work for me in a relationship either. Not saying that that's the case. All the things that you want to explore. I would suggest that's where I would start. Deborah B. My nervous system is way overstimulated, lol. As far as the inadequacy, I've struggled since childhood due to making felt not good enough by parents, being called fat, bullied by siblings and peers, lost college scholarships, and one parent telling me they wondered why I was born. I now struggle with perfectionism and extreme self-worth issues. This 6 to 8 months of this is what's gonna really start to turn that around, Deborah. Getting in touch with your system, soothing your parts, all these parts. And Deborah, my heart goes out to you. And you did not deserve any of that. I guarantee it. You didn't deserve to be told, wonder why you were born. You didn't deserve to be called fat or bullied. And that sucks. And I'm sorry. And I would smack your bully around because I'm 6'2" and 210 pounds. But I can't, and neither can you. So what we can do now is be really loving and compassionate to yourself, like really, really loving, like you would a really, sensitive, straight, beautiful dog who needs to be loved and who's been hurt and kind of beaten down from his relationships or his previous owners, and treat yourself with such compassion and patience, meaning like alleviate the pressure. You've got support. Use the support that you have and be present with your parts and your emotions and accept whatever coping mechanisms you're using right now. You're not stuck and you've got support. So you're on track. Now it's just a matter of time, consistency, and follow through. Deborah, I'm so sorry. That story breaks my heart, but you got this. Don't let it define you. Abner says, hi, panic attack is getting worse. What can I do? Abner, box breathing. Exhale for 4, hold it for 4, inhale for 4, hold it for 4. Abner, let's do it together. We're going to exhale. Ready? Hold. Don't believe your thoughts. Inhale. Hold. Keep going, Abner. And exhale. Hold. Your body's releasing adrenaline, Abner. Inhale. That's why your heart rate's jacked up. You're not in any danger of dying. You're not in any danger of going crazy. Just continue doing the box breathing and just feel the physical sensations. Let go of the belief of the thoughts. Those thoughts that I'm dying, anything, you're not dying. You're okay, and this is going to end. You've been through it before. But just don't believe those thoughts. Feel the physical sensations. Just stay with them. That's the only thing that's true in this experience right now is the physical sensations that you feel. They're not going to kill you. Your heart is not going to stop. You're totally fine. It's going to take about a few more minutes and you're going to be okay. When did you write that? 12 minutes ago? Your panic attack's probably over by now, Abner. Amanda, what's up? I had a stressful day at work. Lack of and delayed communication with work kicks up my I'm not good enough. But really, it doesn't have much to do with me. You're talking like a master, Amanda. I love it. I kept hearing Jim scream in my head, don't believe everything you think. I'm a planner, communicator, and I have a hard time with work environment. Yeah, Amanda, I love it. I love so much of what you're saying. I would encourage you to just be more assertive about, if possible, and maybe this isn't possible, but if you can, if there's room there, be more assertive about implementing systems. If you are a planner and communicator, I think you're probably juggling a hell of a lot of things at once. And the reason you want to plan and communicate is because you want to enjoy your experience. And I'm with you. I'm a planner and communicator totally as well. So finding that balance, and if you have the space to have that conversation with somebody at work, do it. If not, help that part of you. Help the I'm not good enough part of you. And maybe even have a conversation with your boss about it. If that feels safe and it feels okay. I feel like a lot of bosses, if you come to them and say, hey, my intention is to share my experience here, when things are chaotic, things fall through the cracks. And when things fall through the cracks, I feel like I'm not doing a good job and I feel like I'm not good enough. And that gets pretty heavy for me. Now, I can deal with it, and I've been dealing with that for a long time. But that's why it's important that we implement this system, or we have this system, or we plan ahead this way. I'm totally open to adapting. I'm just wondering if you're willing to adapt with me and make things run more smoothly, because it's going to be good for me. And ultimately, it's going to be good for you because I'm going to be able to get more done. I'm going to provide more value for you. And that's good business for both of us. Uh-huh. Bam. Cindy says, okay, thank you. You're welcome. Abner, I can't drive? I don't know. Janice says, pandemic started mine up again too. So guys, a key characteristic, I forgot to mention this the first time we were talking about the pandemic, was go get your creature comforts. Go safely get a hug. Go safely out. Do something fun. Do more than Zoom calls. If you have just an overwhelming anxiety about COVID, go get a hug and then get a rapid test the same day. Or get a rapid test before you get the hug. Get a hug, hang out, go get it. Go back home and be safe. Re-up in we need, this is what happens when people work and they don't take vacation. You need a break every quarter of the year, minimum. Some kind of break, something to break up the monotony. Now, like the end of the quarter is great because you got the holidays. That's fantastic. Sometimes during summer, people take a summer vacation. First quarter and second quarter is when depression tends to be the worst. And that's like January through April. Take a break. And we need that to recharge. And the way you recharge yourself during the pandemic is get some normalcy on a somewhat regular basis. You can do that intelligently, but be more assertive about making it happen. Set up a plan, brainstorm. Don't just write it off. I can't do this. That's too much absolute thinking, and you need it for your mental health. You need it for your survival. So there's rapid tests. Go get a rapid test. Then spend a couple hours, the two of you, knowing that you don't have COVID. Give him a hug, hang out with your long distance boyfriend, go do something, go hold hands and skip through the field. I don't care. Something that makes you feel normal again. And that way it's like you're honoring your anxiety and making sure you're safe. And as well as you're honoring the fact that we're human and we need physical contact, love, and normalcy. But when we take all those creature comforts away and it's just absolute, have to stay home, I can't do anything, I can't go out, I have to wear 17 masks, and I get it, we want to be safe, but what's being convinced that COVID's just going to kill you immediately is so distorted. But also think about, you have to have your existence, and your mental health is such a big state of your of how you are and how you're existing in the world. So if you're struggling, it's like, it's worth it. There is no existence without risk. So mitigate the risk, honor it, and come up with a plan. Amanda says, I used to be fearful of driving long distances. I don't like it a lot, but I don't allow that intense fear to get to me. I just make a plan and take my time. So yeah, I mean, what it sounds like you do is, maybe you'll get anxious during the drive. So you give yourself extra time in case you need to rest and recharge. Beautiful. Cindy says, the room you are sitting in, Jim, looks relaxing. This is my office. Chilling. His dog is walking around here. Last time he chewed through my headphone cable. Don't eat it. Deborah to Amanda says, hey, girl. No, I didn't have to read that. Shantae says, yes, Jim, I've been reading it and will continue to. Get it, Shantae. Do it. Make it happen. Carmen says, what's the name of the book? It's called The Panic Response Plan, Carmen. The link is in the description. You click on it. It's an ebook and an audiobook. So you click on it, and there's I think it's about a 70-page PDF that we wrote, or there's a audio version of me reading it. Sophia says, thank you. You're so welcome. Devin says, hey, Jim. What's up, Devin? Good to see you, brother. What you doing, dude? Jana says, I've been in this cycle for over a month. My nervous system is so tired. I am tired and not sleeping well at all. Jana, the cycle of the panic attack and struggling with the fear of the panic attack? Because dealing with the panic attack is like feeling confident in having a plan. And Jenna, I would recommend you read the Panic Response Plan book and do all that you can to have a plan ready for when you have a panic attack, to immediately try to mitigate some of the fear and gain some confidence. Hi, buddy. And then and then we'll talk about how do you stop being so scared of it. And it kind of works synergistically that when you feel more confident, you stop being as scared. But do what we were talking about before. Just a panic attack is just physical symptoms, right? It's if you take away the thoughts that aren't true, it's just physical symptoms. Stay with the physical symptoms. Let the thoughts flow through. If you have to counteract them, say, nope. And I guarantee a lot of you are doing this already. If you have to counteract them and say, I'm not going to die. We've been through this before. We're going to be fine. There you go. Deborah says, I struggle with self-compassion. It's, one of the, doing some like compassionate kind of self-coaching, like just introducing and integrating some love towards yourself. If that feels uncomfortable, that's a good sign that that's going to help. And so we got to practice until we get it and practice until it goes in, and get some help with parts of you that may be a block to that. Yeah, absolutely. And Deborah, I would ask you, do you struggle with giving compassion to others? Do you struggle with truly feeling compassionate towards other people? Because those are kind of two different dynamics where maybe your compassion button is shut off from being beaten down so much. And that happens. And it's not turned off permanently, but it may be turned off. Amanda says, I see a meeting coming up soon. Nice. Amanda says, happy birthday, bro. All the love from the Dave Felices. Thank you. Devin says, I've been having anxiety attacks a lot recently, and I don't know why. What's going on, Devin? What's changed? Anything? Could be just some stress you're holding in that's hit ahead. Don says, go to the pet store and hug a dog. That makes me happy. Like, I love this little guy, but man, when he chews through a microphone cable or he eats his food so fast he throws up, I think I'm the luckiest guy in the world. You're a little... Yeah, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you. Come here. Come here. Come on. Oh, you're so... Woody. All right, you gonna answer some questions? Okay. I was ever so grateful for the sun and warmth today. Nice. Hashtag seasonal affect disorder survival. The way to deal with seasonal affect disorder is be very assertive about finding fun things that you can do. Go buy yourself a new jacket. Go buy yourself a great rain jacket. Go buy yourself a new wool hat to keep you warm. Make an adventure out of the season. Find the cool spots in it. Hi, buddy. Looks like a little gremlin. Oh, God, we're all tied up. Don't break my other. This one wouldn't be your fault. Okay. Carmen says, thank you. You're so welcome, Carmen. Guys, check out that book. If you haven't scheduled the free coaching session, schedule it. I promise you. Everybody's different. Everybody needs a little bit of a different tool. What are you doing? Oh, you got to get down. Okay. You're getting anxious. You don't want to get up here. All right. Hey. Hi, buddy. Oh, you didn't want to get... Okay. Go in your bed. In your bed. Good boy. He's so good. He's so hyper, though. Down. Good boy. Amanda says, I went for a walk. 2. It was nice. Yeah. Get out. Devin, you have 5 dogs. Wild. Carmen, I just have the one pup. That's Woody. Woodrow. And I'm so thankful that it's getting darker later. Not driving home in the dark helps so much. Yeah, absolutely. I just love it because it's so awesome to have have light. Cindy loved the dog. Hey, sweet. It's Woody. Woody. I love him too. Deborah says, no, I don't struggle with compassion towards others because I don't want others to feel alone or go through the same things I have. Just struggle with it towards myself. You know, Dr. David Burns and a lot of other people write about what is that allows us to feel compassion towards other people but not towards ourselves? What is that we treat other people so richly and so wonderfully, but we can't turn that inward? And the truth is actually that you can. You really can. There is parts of you that have formed that are a block to that. It may feel so uncomfortable. You may be habituated to feeling like you don't matter, or feeling low self-worth, or feeling like you don't deserve to feel good. It starts with just exploring it, trying it, and see what it feels like. So Deborah, slow down. And you can do a little bit of mirror work while you do this, but just slow down in the experience and just say something loving and compassionate towards yourself, like, hey, you're doing great, or hey, we got this, or hey, you're healing. You're really healing, and you can really do it. And just see how it feels. Physically find the sensation in your body if it feels like there's a part of you rejecting it. Where is that physically? Why do you think that's happening? Dawn says, love the dog. I have 4 little ones. It's a lot of dogs. Dawn, I love it. Good for you. What's up, Gadsky? Jana says, I don't want to eat when I'm so anxious now that it's worrying me that I'm not eating enough. And Jana, you're okay. You're not going to do any permanent damage to yourself as far as just a suppressed appetite. And forcing yourself to eat, if you're going to eat, Jana, the kind of scientifically proven, one of the best things you can do for anxiety is a high protein, high fat breakfast. So eggs and sausage, avocado, and a protein smoothie. Kind of keep the carbs low and get some good fat in there. But as far as loss of appetite, Jenna, nothing to worry about. It's just a symptom. It's a symptom of the anxiety. And what you can integrate in there is like try to get some magnesium, maybe take a magnesium supplement or get some through kale. Just be picky about the foods that you can put in your system. Make sure they're not stimulating. Avoid spicy foods or like onions and garlic with a lot of bite to them. And just get stuff that is really integrating great nutrients into your system, into your body. Cindy says, me too. I love others, but not to myself. A lot of times victims of abuse can take on the energy of the abuser. And a lot of times that part will form to protect you from being the abuser. You actually see this in pups a lot, where if a pup is attacked, then they become really aggressive. And they do that because it's like a preemptive dealing with anxiety, dealing with pain. It's like, I notice that if I bark at dogs, they back off. So if I bark at every dog, they'll all back off, and then I won't be bitten or I won't be hurt again. It happens in us. And it makes sense if you consciously think about it. It's like you're abused or you're treated without self-compassion. And so you adopt that. And it can be protective, like as if I do it to myself, and I don't accept that love. That's a way that I formed. That's a way that I coped with being so hurt, is I don't need that. Or it could be kind of absorbing that from the person who you wanted compassion, you wanted understanding, you wanted love from, but just didn't give it to you. And so it's one of those things that, again, do some mirror work, be present with the parts of you that may be blocking that ability, feel if it feels uncomfortable to do, and then we can move forward as far as exploring and connecting with that part of ourselves. Amanda says, I'm deficient with my own self-compassion. I have compassion towards others, but I have to be careful not to be a rescuer. I'm learning. I had a long talk with my therapist today about my pattern of being a fixer in relationships and how it's actually screwed up my romantic relationships. And that all these partners wanted from me was openness and vulnerability. But I had such a hard time being honest and just risking hurting their feelings. And it was because I really carried the burden of maintaining their, helping them maintain their peace and their serenity. And so if I said something, even if I really felt it, even if it was important to me, that would hurt them or that I perceived would hurt them, I couldn't do it, or I wouldn't do it. And I would really try to just focus on what I could do to lift them up and please them and make them happy. And it ruined a bunch of relationships for me. And so we had this long talk about, I don't get it, man. Like, it's so innate and ingrained in me to be a fixer. But it's such a block to true intimacy, because if you're rescuing, if you're fixing, you're not present with them. You're not coming from a place of honesty and openness. You're coming from a place of I need to save you and I need to help you, because that's what is tied to my worth. That's what makes me feel useful. But ultimately, it's going to be a block to true honesty and true intimate relationships. Those deep kind of relationships that you really want to have, Amanda. Those really deep connections that mean a hell of a lot to you and that will light you up and ignite you, because there's nothing scarier and more beautiful than true openness and vulnerability with all that you are, with the truth of how you feel, with the shame, with the embarrassment, with that honesty. And Cindy, to go back to what you're saying about your therapist, I can see how with that level of intimacy, if you're developing that with somebody and they betray you, and you've been betrayed before in that it's just going to light up that pain, because people who aren't used to being that vulnerable, really vulnerable, not I'm telling you how I am, but I'm showing you into these parts of me that I don't show people, is incredibly, incredibly scary, but also the key to those relationships that we really want to have. Deborah says, what if you struggle with dissociation? Deborah, in what context? Dissociation in particular is typically a coping mechanism for your body when it's trying to disconnect to save you from suffering. I mean, to put it that simply, disconnect you from feeling something that you don't want to feel. You know, by the way, trigger warning, suicide. So if you need to step out for a second, step out. Parts of us that feel like we won't want to kill ourselves, parts of us that want to hurt ourselves, parts of us that want to run away, parts of us that put thoughts in our head of doing really dangerous things to ourselves physically. Actually, they don't want us to do those things. What they are parts of us that want us to stop suffering and feel better. All these parts of you, including the dissociation, including the depersonalization, including the derealization part, are doing what they think is best. Now, sometimes a depersonalization is actually a symptom of just sheer exhaustion. But a lot of times dissociation and DPDR, depersonalization, derealization, are ways that your body's trying to cope. Ways it's trying to cope. Think about that. Your brain is wired to help you survive, to help you get away from threatening things, get away from suffering. And if something isn't working, it's going to form a way to cope with it. That's why you see all these turns. That's why you start to have panic attacks, is there's stuck emotion in there and it's just storing, and then you pop your top. And the release of that fight or flight is like the last ditch effort of like, there's a threat, there's something threatening, whether it's internal, external, whatever. And it triggers that fight or flight. So think about the dissociation. Get really curious about it, Deborah. Take notes about when it happens. And think of it as a part of you. And when it happens, do things to talk to it, to calm it down, to relieve it. Like, hey, we don't have to do this. Like, we're okay. Alleviate the pressure. You don't have to resociate. I don't even know what that means, if that's the way to say it. You don't have to not be dissociated. So just be present with it, but also talk to that part of you as if there's like some part of you that's flipping the switch to dissociate, and be like, why, what is it? What's happening? If you get real accusatory or aggressive, probably not going to respond too well. But if you get curious and compassionate with it, you can connect with it and really understand it a hell of a lot better. A heck of a lot better. What's up, Kat? Welcome. Amanda says, I feel that when I'm ready to swim in the dating pool, you might find yourself vetting him. You're talking to me? I'm going to vet your future boyfriends? Nice. I'm up for that job. Man, I just had an epiphany about dissociation because of what you just said. That's awesome. Share it. If you had the epiphany, it may be useful for other people, including Deborah. By the way, guys, don't pay attention to this gigantic water jug. Yeah, I can relate to that, Deborah. A lot of times I never realize the dissociation until after the fact. Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, think about it. You're disconnecting for a while, so yeah, it makes sense. But, practicing being present will help with that, definitely. Not help with the symptoms per se, but help you to start by getting some more information about it. Absolutely. What is the epiphany, Amanda? Before we go here, I want to know what's going on. I want to know what's going on. So let me give kind of the goodbye rant. And if you guys have any last comments, feel free to throw them in there, and I'll check them out before we go in about a minute. So everything going on. We've got our weekly class that is right now is Monday and Thursdays is open enrollment for that. Message us if you want to sign up. You can message us here on Facebook. That covers about, I think there's about 24 or 25 weeks of lessons on the foundations. Everything from IFS, internal family systems, to cognitive behavioral therapy, to exposure therapy, to dealing with avoidance, trusting your future self, talking about the feedback loop, the cause of panic attacks, destimulating your nervous system. What is a trigger? Why is this happening? How do I feel better? What do I do? It's very application and student heavy, where we give you exercises to do during the class. We guide you through them so that you can apply what we're talking about to your situation right then. We always do one-on-one coaching. You can message us if you're interested in that. If you haven't yet scheduled your free coaching session, the link is in the description in this video and in the YouTube video. Check out our YouTube page. Just search for Inner Solutions. I posted the link in the chat already. Let me see if I can post it again. Is that the one that's in my clipboard? Nope. Here's the link to schedule a free coaching call if you haven't already. What else? We have a ton of stuff coming up. The YouTube is updated all the time. There's actually, I did an interview with an astrologer to figure out, what do we do with astrology? What does that mean? What is astrology? Is it related to anxiety? Can we use it? Those of us that are suffering, we don't have the luxury of writing something off if there's something useful about it. Right tool for the right job for the right person. And, man, it's just... lots of great stuff going on. I want to thank all of you that we had a call with. Info for the class. Cindy, send us a message. Send us a message on Facebook here to our page, and or shoot us a line somehow. You can email us to jim@innersolutions.academy, and happy to give you much more information about that. Yeah, subscribe to the YouTube page. There's tons of awesome stuff. If there's stuff you want us to shoot videos about, message us here on Facebook about it, or comment on a separate video, and we see all the comments. We'll make the video that you want us to make if you're wondering about something. Other than that, guys, it's such an honor and a privilege to be able to do these live streams. It's awesome to see our community growing and more people participating in the chat. Please share, if there's people out there you think this will bring value to, we really created this company to help as many people as possible. And if there's somebody you think it'll add value to for them, please share it with them. By the way, all these live streams are on our Facebook and YouTube page and are up there permanently. So you can always come back and if there was a part that resonated with you. Amanda says, I think I disassociated for a while between the time that Bill and I separated until he died. Very unhealthy coping skill because I just didn't want to deal with the reality. Did you feel like it was a choice, Amanda? I feel like dissociation happens automatically, but thank you so much for sharing. So beyond that, guys, my name is Jim Cipollini or Cipollini. I want to thank you guys so much. And remember, no matter where you are, no matter how long you've been struggling, no matter how intense it is or how hopeless you feel, you're never, ever, ever stuck. You might just need some support. Lots of love, guys. Happy February. Talk to you soon. You got this. Don't give up.